Limestone County Board of Education Board meeting is called to order. Notices for the meeting were properly posted and provided to those who requested direct notification. Let the record show all board members are present, except for Ms. Fuqua. We'll begin with a prayer led by Mr. Young, followed by the pledge, led by Dr. Maples.
Let's pray. Most Heavenly Father, I come to you tonight asking you to lay your hand upon us as we conduct the business of our school system, and that we will make sure that we are looking in the light of all that is affected in the decisions that we make. We pray for our leaders in our schools, in our central office, in our local government, and in the big White House. We just pray that those people are looking towards you for guidance. In your name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board, we have an agenda before us. Do I hear a motion?
I'll offer.
Ms. Kilgore offers a motion. Do I hear a second? Second. Dr. Herring offers a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. We'll begin with the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've got All right, we've got some special guests with us tonight, and I'm glad everyone's here. But the National Space Club presentation of NBCT scholarship to Dr. Britton Anderson, and Dr. Britton Anderson's been with us recently, but we're glad to have her back as well. This year, Dr. Britton Anderson, an outstanding teacher at West Limestone High School, was selected as an NBCT scholarship recipient by the National Space Club. We previously recognized Dr. Anderson with a superintendent's commendation. Tonight, we are joined by Ms. Liz Boykin. Glad to have you here with us, Liz. Director of Operations for the Schools Foundation, and Mr. Terry Abel with the National Space Club as they recognize Dr. Anderson. Ms. Boykin.
The Schools Foundation, in partnership with the Committee of 100 and the National Space Club, supports the Raise Your Hand initiative. This initiative supports funding for teachers who aspire to acquire their National Board certification. And this evening, I have Terry Abel with me, National Space Club. Their funding tonight supports our recognition.
Well, first of all, thank you all for what you do. It's a pleasure to get to come out and say hello and recognize teachers. And I just love what you guys are doing, helping the education of our children in the future. I represent the National Space Club's Education Committee. We are blessed to be able to sow $250,000 into the North Alabama region this year, and part of that is to recognize teachers that are doing such a good job. We partner with the Schools Foundation in doing so, in identifying those teachers and evaluating candidates for which their National Board certification is funded. And this was our very first year to expand beyond Madison City, Madison County, Huntsville City to Limestone County. And so to be able to recognize Dr. Anderson and this community, we already work with you all in terms of scholarships at UNA, Athens State, Calhoun, both Decatur, Huntsville, UAH, A&M. And so it's just a pleasure to say thank you for what you do, and congratulations to Dr. Anderson.
Thank you for your support of us.
So on behalf of the Schools Foundation and the National Space Club, we award this check to Dr. Britton Anderson for $2,000.
Wow. Oh, you're in it.
I couldn't see the cameras. Maybe the camera couldn't see me.
Cameras prefer I don't see them.
See that check?
Yeah, it's a big one. It's a big check. Look at that.
You'll try to cash it, don't do it.
Never know, they might cash it, who knows? So tonight, we also have a superintendent's commendation for Michelle Richardson. Tonight, I would like to recognize another outstanding employee of Limestone County Schools, Mrs. Michelle Richardson, school psychometrist. Ms. Richardson was recently awarded the Thomas B. Ward School Psychologist of the Year by the Alabama Association of School Psychologists. The purpose of the award is to identify and recognize an outstanding school psychologist, psychometrist, and to increase public awareness of the profession. This distinguished honor reflects her exceptional dedication, expertise, and unwavering commitment to supporting the academic, social, emotional, and behavioral success of every student she serves. Mrs. Richardson's work exemplifies the highest standards of her profession. She consistently goes above and beyond to ensure students receive the individualized support they need to thrive. Her collaboration approach strengthens school teams, empowers families, and fosters a culture of care, equity, and inclusion across the district. As a valued member of our educational community, Mrs. Richardson represents the best of what it means to serve with compassion and excellence. We are grateful for her leadership, her professionalism, and her devotion to the well-being of our students. And I know that you're very well respected throughout our school system, and I've read a few of the comments when the story came out about you receiving the award, and I'm very proud of what you've done for our system, and just glad you're so highly respected here. If you come forward.
As required by Alabama law, the public will be allowed to address the board relating to the allotment of public funds or any other matter related to the administration of public schools in Limestone County. Do we have anyone here tonight who's here to address the board? Then I get to read you a little more, Mr. Terry. I've got it memorized. Oh, yeah. Any individual desiring to speak shall stand and give his or her name and the group name, if any, that he or she represents. The presentation should be as brief as possible, and in no event shall such address exceed 3 minutes. Speakers may make statements about their particular concern with school operations and programs and shall observe appropriate decorum in doing so. The board will not hear comments regarding individual students or comments regarding school personnel or persons connected with the school system that are unrelated to the performance of their duties, not tied to official business of the board, or are merely an attack on someone's good name and character rather than their conduct or a position they have taken. Mr. Terry? I don't know if everybody heard, our speakers inside here aren't working, but if you speak in the microphone, they can't hear you online.
I think they can hear me.
Okay.
If anybody can't hear me, wants to hear me, I'll take the microphone, but if not, I'll just...
Well, they probably can't hear you
Online.
Online. Yeah.
I will take the microphone.
Yes.
All right, so thanks for the opportunity that the state has required us to be able to have this opportunity tonight, even though y'all are willing to do that at just about any board meeting. On behalf of AEA, UNISERV District 1, LCEA, ESPO, and our members, I want to recognize and thank the board, the superintendent, and CSFO for your extra financial support of not only our members, but all of Limestone County School System employees during the October 21st board meeting. Teachers, support staff, and administrators often give way more to education financially than they receive. So when revenue is flowing, it is great that you, the board, and superintendent willing to recommend to provide these extra one-time bonuses for employees. It is recognized and it is appreciated. I can remember my third year of teaching, which has been several years ago. We had 9% proration, and there were several other years we experienced that awful state budgeting practice during the 80s and the 90s. Additionally, I remember that just a few years ago, under two different superintendents, the Limestone County School System had some tough financial times, but educators pressed on for the betterment of the students, the school system, And so again, we want to thank you for your financial support in this one-time bonus in December. With that being said, it's not going to be that easy. I would like for the board to begin discussions and consider investing in the employees of Limestone County Schools by considering fully funding the 4th personal leave day for all employees and begin a process to compensate teachers that cover a class during planning period when subs cannot be scheduled. At least consider the compensation for classroom teachers that have to give up their planning period more than 1 day per month. I believe these two items, along with the one-time bonuses that have been passed in this time and in the past, will continue building morale and dedication among the employees. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Going once. Mr. Cleveland?
Yes, sir.
You're up.
Okay. You want the microphone? Okay.
Yeah.
I hadn't had a time to come before y'all, and if you remember, when we sat down and talked about maybe pay raise incentives for drivers, where we were 18 short at the time, what you did is working. We were fully staffed till 4 days before school. Then I lost 4. I'm only 7 down. I got 2 in the pipeline coming out tomorrow and 3 in January. So I want to thank you. It is working, but in transportation, if you talk to anybody across the state, they're down. They're worse than we are. Huntsville at one time was 30 down, Madison 22. So it creates a problem. So I also want to tell you, we did a kind of experiment. I asked Dr. Schuerhaus if I could try double routes for 2 routes to see how that worked. So what we did, that's 4 routes went into 2. We transitioned those to stops instead of door to door. That has worked tremendously. I've had other drivers I can repurpose. I also have 4 more routes that have about 45 stops and 40 stops AM and PM. That's about an hour and a half. It's too long. If in these condensed areas, I can go to stops there, we can make that about 40 minutes and possibly run 2 more double routes at the end of the year as these housing developments get bigger and bigger and bigger. The cul-de-sacs are the problem. They're smaller. They're really short, and we can't get a 48-foot bus in there. I can, but there's cars there. And in the last 3 years, I've probably spent about $10,000 on mailboxes and repairs. So I'm trying not to do that. So that is the truth. And it's not my driver's fault. Well, some of it is. Some of them are not with us anymore.
Bus does swing out a little bit.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Well, and put it,
road, aren't they?
we have hit 2 brick ones, and then you have to have the builder with the brick mason build it, and those are about $700-800. So I guess I'm asking, moving forward, with these 4 routes, would you be okay if I can try this to see if this works better where I can repurpose drivers? That's what I'm asking you tonight, and he can give me the answer.
So this does save us.
It does save us drivers. It does save us buses. Ultimately, in East and Creekside, if it keeps getting as condensed and condensed, this is probably the way we're going to have to operate. But with that being said, you could operate with less drivers and less buses. Ultimately, in the future, instead of buying 11 buses, maybe it could be 5, 4. I don't know. So we'll see how quick that turns around. Anybody got any questions?
Mr. Cleveland, I know that when you made that decision or proposal, you were thinking, you had to be thinking about the safety of the kids. It's paramount.
It is. Well, and the stop times, what they do is your window to get picked up and dropped off is condensed. I can give if we got 10 to 15 stops, I can give a 5-minute window when we think we're going to be there. But if it's an hour and a half, if something happens, you got children standing outside, possibly for 45 minutes. I'm trying to cut that down too.
And then also, I know that, was it you that brought up the device that would track on the GPS?
That is the next step. Yes, that is the next step that we have in place. I've got to talk with him about it, but I have all that ironed out. I don't know if we want to go step 2 or 3, but I have that for you.
And of course, where that would help would be, parents would know where the bus is located, so they wouldn't have to, if it was cold, for example, they wouldn't have to get out there. And
Phase 2 will give them updates, it gives them times, it gives them all that, they can track them. I mean, it's worth it for the money. It's minimal It's like $49,000 a year for that safety aspect.
Mr. Cleveland, we're saying we're trying something. Does that mean you're going to report back to us how this goes?
I am. That's why I'm here tonight, to give you the 2 routes for one and propose 4 more. And hopefully, maybe by March, I can come back and say these are working too, and maybe we can combine 2 of those and repurpose 2 more drivers.
Okay.
I guess I'll say that, you possibly could operate with less employees for us, which we could be whole sooner.
What would be the longest distance the kids had to walk if they,
We,
We did
the state allows 3. We say 2, we don't have any that are 2. We try to keep it, I don't think we have any under a mile. We try to repurpose to get it close enough. But we're within the guidelines of everything we're doing right now.
3
What is
miles?
3 and
miles
2?
is
The state, yeah,
Okay.
The state says 3 miles.
yeah, they allow it, but we don't do it.
so you could let a first grader off and let him walk 3 miles?
No, That's why we're trying to have designated stops. And they're at the end of the cul-de-sacs, most of them. And you're talking about on short streets.
Yeah.
And if we need to go around and get closer, we have. We'll do anything we need to do and change.
we were looking at less than a half a mile.
Well,
Yeah.
the 2 that we did, I think they were.
It's less than a half. That's correct.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
All right,
That's much more research.
thank you.
Thank you.
Got a granddaughter basketball game.
Gotcha.
Good luck.
Of course, now we have Allison is going to talk about the state report card. Those results were just released last week, and she's going to share some of those highlights and give you some information about how our district is performing.
Thank you. Like a good folder.
You will open up to the very first page, past the title page. You'll just see where it gives how our report cards are determined. So you'll see on the left-hand side, it says schools with a grade 12. All of our report cards have 2 overall indicators to determine school success. You have an academic indicators and you have school quality or student success indicators. So on a school with a grade 12, you can see their academic indicators are academic achievement is 20% of their report card. That will be their ACAP scores, their alternate ACAP, and ACT plus writing. It will also be academic growth, which is 25% of their report card. Graduation rate. Graduation rate is not this class that just graduated in 25. It's done a year in the rear, so it is the class of 24, as well as progress in English language proficiency. That score is where a student will take the access test, where it tests their English language, and it will take their score from the previous year from the 24 year to the 25 year to see if they made a year's worth of growth. The guideline for it this past year for the federal government was 58%. We wanted if you got 58% of the students met their growth target, you got all of your points there on the report card. And then for the school quality or student success indicators, chronic absenteeism is 10% of the report card score, and college and career readiness is also 10%, and that's also on that class of 2024. For schools without a grade 12, you can see their academic achievement counts 40%. Again, that is their ACAP scores in grades 3 through 5 and alternate ACAP. Their academic growth is 40%, and then their progress in English language proficiency is at 5%. And then their only school quality or student success factor is their chronic absenteeism. In our report cards, it only includes students that are called full academic year. Sometimes you may hear that called a FAE student, full academic year. Excuse me. That means they are, in these scores here for the schools, that means they were at that school 85% of the year. If they were not enrolled at that school for 85% of the year, their score did not count for that school. Now, if they transferred from East Limestone to Ardmore, and they were in our school system for 85% of the year, but neither school 85%. They wouldn't count for either school, but they would still count on our district report card. No group will count on the report card if it has less than 20 students when we're looking at subgroup data. And so you'll see that some schools will not have a progress in English language proficiency score because they do not have 20 EL students that had a matching score on the Access. And that, if they do not have that, then that particular 5% of that goes to academic growth. So you'll see some schools, instead of academic growth counting 25% on a high school report card, it'll count 30%. On an elementary report card, the academic growth will be 45% if they did not have 20 EL students in those tested grade bands. So elementary would be 3 through 5. On a high school campus, it would be those EL students that take that Access test in grade 6, 8, and grade 11. There's two different report cards tonight. We're going over the state report card. The state report card does not include EL students who have been in Alabama schools less than 6 years in the academic portion. So their ACAP score does not count unless they scored proficient in English this past spring on the Access test. On the federal report card, if they've been in schools 3 or more years in the United States, their score counts. So that's why you'll see, I did include the federal scores at the back of our packet tonight, and you'll see for some schools, you'll see there's a 2-point difference or 3-point difference based on their number of EL, whether they count it or not on that report card. Academic achievement, the way we get those scores is if they scored, they take our ACAP and our ACT, and we've gone over that data as we got that in. Some of it was as early as this past summer. But remember, they're scored a 1, 2, 3, or 4, and we get so many points for that. So you get no points for a 1. You get half a point for a 2. You get 1 point if a child scores a 3, which is considered proficient. But if they score a 4, we get 1.25 points for that. For academic growth, they take every child that scored the same score the previous year. So every child that scored a 2 in 6th grade math last year, and they look at them across the state, and they look how much they grew. And so if they grew in the top 25%, they get a 4 in academic growth. If they grew from 51 to 75, they'll get a 3 for growth. If they were that 26 to 50, they would get a category of growth of 2. And if they were in that lowest 25%, they would get a growth category of 1. So in growth, you get 0 points for 1. You get a half a point for a 2 in growth. We got a point for a 3, and you get 1.5 points for a 4. And I think, as you will see tonight, our academic growth in our schools have done a tremendous job. Our students are growing at the top point of the state. Nearly every school you will see, we're in the top 25% of growth in our state, and that's exciting. We still have areas that, of course, we want to improve on, but our growth, we show that we are working continually on growth. Okay. The next page talks about the different federal support school identifications. So the state report card does not give these categorizations, but the federal report card does, and this is based on subgroups. We do not have any comprehensive support schools. We do have 6 that are targeted support and improvement, and I will go over those as we look at each school. Our categories for that are usually students. This year are for students with disabilities, and we have 1 school that's students with limited English proficiency. And that just means that that subgroup did not perform like they should have in comparison to the all-student group. So there's too big of a gap there. And so when they compared it to all students at the lowest schools in the state, technically they were at the 75th percentile of their all-student group. And so we do have some schools that are named targeted support and improvement. We will be working with those schools to help them look at those students, see where their gaps are and what we can do to close those gaps. We, this year, do not have any additional targeted and support schools. So last year, we still had 3 schools that were ATSI, which is a little bit more severe than TSI, which was that category right above there. But we had 3 schools that moved off that this year. Cedar Hill moved off, Elkmont Elementary moved off, and Clements moved off, and that was all for students with disabilities. So that was very exciting to see that they came off of that ATSI list. And the last thing before we get into the scores is Creekside Primary, since they are a K-2 school, they get the score of their feeder pattern school. So they get the academic scores of Creekside Elementary, except for chronic absenteeism. Chronic absenteeism counts for their kindergarten through 2nd grade, and in any school, it's all of your students. If you're a 612, it's 612. If you're a K5, it's K5 at your school. Chronic absenteeism is looked at for any student, regardless of reason. It could be all doctor's notes. If you are out 18 or more days, you count as chronically absent. And as you will see tonight, nearly every one of our schools has made great strides, and as a district, we've made great strides lowering our chronic absenteeism rate. So if you look at the first school there, you can see that we have Ardmore High School. Ardmore High School did decrease their total report card score by 2 points, but if you look there, you can see I've included the past several years, and then you can see that I broke it down into academic achievement, and then I broke it down in reading and math, so we can look a little deeper to see what are our areas. If you look, you can see they had growth in all areas of academic achievement in reading and math. For their growth, academic growth, they went up. Overall, they went up, but they definitely went up in reading, down slightly in growth for math. Their graduation rate was up. Their CCRS was also up. They did lose a little bit with chronic absenteeism. Their chronic absenteeism went up a little bit by 4.28. But this is also the first year that Ardmore has had an EL subgroup that counted on their report card. So if you'll look at there at the EL proficiency, you'll see NA all the way across for those previous years. So that means that they had 20 students in those tested grade levels. That now gives them a subgroup population of students with EL proficiency. And that score right there, to be able to get your 5 points for that score, you would have had to have a 58% there. And so really that, and this is the first time that Ardmore's had an EL proficiency score. Okay, if you turn the page, you'll see Clements High School. And as you can see, for the past several years, actually since about 2018, if I had enough room on my paper to include before 21, Clements High School has been an ATSI school for students with disabilities. So they did come off of ATSI. They are now currently TSI for students with disabilities and TSI for students with limited English proficiency. As you can see, their report card score stayed the same. If you look, though, you can see that they went up in academic achievement by 4 points overall, nearly 5 points for reading, and over 3.5 points for math. As you can see, though, an area where they decreased was in their academic growth. They increased their graduation rate. Their CCRS went down. We did look to see what caused their CCR, their college and career ready indicators. Part of it was that 4 students were in that graduating class were AAA, and so those students did not have a college and career ready indicator. And there were some other reasons that we did look into. Their chronic absenteeism, though, they did a great job improving that last year. And then their EL proficiency, they went up there, but still you can see we've got a long way to go to get to 58% for EL proficiency. Okay, East Limestone High School, as you can see, the previous 3 years they have been TSI, and TSI is named every year, but you can see that they were TSI for students with disabilities. And as you can see, they do not have a heading above that, so they were able to be able to move their students with disabilities to where they're no longer named a TSI school, so that's a great celebration. And as you can also see that they have a very high score on the report card. So we're very excited. They are our first high school with an A on the report card, and so also they were the school that had the most growth across the district, if you look at elementary or high school. So they grew 5 points in 1 year's time, and so that was very exciting to see. If you look across, you can see their academic achievement. They grew in reading and math. They also, look at that academic growth, over 11.5 points in academic growth compared to the previous year. So they actually had 100% in academic growth, which is very exciting to see. Their graduation rate was up slightly. Their CCRS was down slightly, but they made up enough in other areas. Chronic absenteeism was down, and then they still do not have an EL group. They do not have 20 yet. So just a huge celebration for the growth that we see for East Limestone. Elkmont High School, as you can see, that they have had some TSI in the past, and this year they are named a TSI school for students with disabilities. As you can see, their report card score did slightly go down, but if you look at academic achievement, their academic achievement went up. So we're excited to see academic achievement went up. Their overall academic growth went down, but you can see that they did have academic growth in math, and that has been an area of focus for the district, especially in secondary for math. Graduation rate was up, CCRS was up as well, nearly 5 points up there. Chronic absenteeism was down, so that's always a great thing to see. Their EL proficiency, though, they lost some points there on the EL proficiency on that access test, and so that's an area that I've already been meeting with them. They've been wanting to know, and things that we can work on there to try to increase that. Tanner High School increased 1 point on their state report card, and they are also a TSI school for students with disabilities. As you can see, they went up 1 point on their report card. They were down slightly on their academic achievement and down on their academic growth. Their graduation rate was up. Their CCRS was up as well. Chronic absenteeism was a big focus last year. As you can see, they reduced that by 6.7, so that was a great thing to see there. And as you can kind of look across there, you can see over the last 4 years, they have really changed their chronic absenteeism. If you look in 21, from 36 to last year, 14, so that's a huge change for Tanner to make sure those students are in school more days. EL proficiency did increase from the previous year, but it's still, as I said, 58% is what that score should be, but it was up for the school, 11.39, which was exciting to see. West Limestone High School, as you can see, they're up 2 points for their overall score. So if you look in the last, from 2 years ago, they've really had a 9-point increase over the last 2 years, so that's a great job there. As you can see, their academic achievement, they had great growth in academic achievement. Went slightly down in their academic growth. The previous year they'd had 100, so this year it was 99.5, so slightly a decrease there, but not really enough that it changed the number of points that they got there. Graduation rate was up, CCRS was up. Chronic absenteeism was a little bit higher, but it wasn't even a point difference there. And EL proficiency also went down about 9 points there. Alabama Connections, this is their state report card. So as you can see, they had an increase of 3 points on their state report card. They went down slightly in academic achievement, but went up in reading, but went down in math. Their academic growth was down slightly, except it was up in reading, but down a greater percentage in math. Their graduation rate was down slightly, but look at the improvement in their college and career-ready indicators. That was a huge focus for them for that class of 2024, and it's continued to be a focus to make sure that the students that are graduating, now it's got a requirement for them, and so it is a big push, and you can see they increased there by 35% from the previous year. Chronic absenteeism is always a great one for them, and then their EL proficiency, they went up 4 points there. One thing I want to talk about, I did notice, they did, one of the things that they're doing for their math, their reading and their math coaches meet with our elementary math and reading and math coaches. They've been attending some lesson studies that we've been doing where a math lesson, the whole block is being demonstrated, and our teachers get to go, and we've also invited their coaches to go. And now their coaches are actually inviting some of our math coaches to actually do virtual walkthroughs to look through their virtual math lessons, just so we are trying to share ideas back and forth. Okay, that covers all of our high schools, so now we'll move to our elementary schools, and so we'll start with Blue Springs. Blue Springs is a TSI school for students with disabilities for the 24-25 report card. As you can see, their report card score overall went down slightly. They went down in academic achievement and growth. Their chronic absenteeism did increase by just slightly over a point. One thing that also really affected their report card, this is the first time in years that they've had an EL subgroup population, that EL proficiency. And so typically those points would have gone up there to that growth category on their previous report cards. Cedar Hill Elementary, you can see that for years they've been ATSI, and as you can see, they have removed that ATSI. Technically, they actually do a report card. It's never published, but that's how they determine and for each subgroup. And so we've been keeping an eye on all of our schools and what our subgroup report card is. So we worked on that this summer when we had Leadership Academy. I showed them how to figure their subgroup report cards, and so that's things that we look at to continue. And Cedar Hill's done a great job of making sure that that subgroup of students with disabilities has continued to improve their scores every year. And as you can see, it has paid off because they are no longer identified as any type of support school with students with disabilities. They did go up a point on their report card. You can see they went up in all areas for academic achievement. Academic growth, they got 100%, even though it's not a full 100% in reading when it's averaged out. They wound up getting the full, by the time they do, some of our schools, actually, if they could get over 100, they would, because they have so many kids that scored 4s for growth that maybe their percentage there was actually 112, but of course it caps it at 100. And that is the case here with Cedar Hill. Their chronic absenteeism was very close to the same. It was about a half point higher than it was the previous year, and they currently do not have an EL subgroup. Creekside Elementary continued to maintain a very solid A. They did go down a point, but that's still a very solid A. And as you can see, academic achievement, they were slightly down overall, but they were up for reading, slightly down for math. Their academic growth, again, is at 100%, which is wonderful. They lowered their chronic absenteeism rate again. That was I believe that's the lowest chronic absenteeism rate in our district. And they currently do not have a EL group. I really thought it was pretty amazing that they continue to have such a strong number, because I think that that last year, we hired math coaches for all of our schools. We also hired some additional positions, and I think she lost 3 or 4 of her teachers to advancing positions in our district, and for them to continue to maintain that good solid A, I thought was very impressive for them to continue the work that they've been doing. Creekside Primary, of course, if you look, their score stayed the same. All of these scores at the top, except for chronic absenteeism, is their scores from Creekside Elementary. But as you can see, look what they did with their chronic absenteeism. They lowered it by over 6%, and so that was very exciting to see that Creekside Primary was able to lower that chronic absenteeism. Elkmont Elementary, you can see that they were an ATSI school for years with students with disabilities, and as you can see this year, they've moved off of ATSI, which is the more serious one, to TSI with students with disabilities. And as you can see, they did increase their report card score by 2 points. Great academic achievement, they grew in every area. Great growth overall, great growth in reading, slightly down a little bit in math. They lowered their chronic absenteeism rate by a little bit, and their EL proficiency. I'm so proud that they were able to get their full 5 points because they had over that 58% proficiency. Over 58% of their students hit that target. So. Johnson Elementary also maintained an A for the second year in a row, and you can see that was a decrease by 1 point, but they still maintained an A. Their academic achievement went down, but their academic growth stayed the same at 100% academic growth. They also lowered their chronic absenteeism, and last year they had an EL subgroup. This year they did not have that 20 students. Sugar Creek Elementary this year is a TSI for students with disabilities. They did go down by 1 point. Academic achievement was down slightly, but they did have growth in reading there. Their academic growth was down slightly. Chronic absenteeism, though, they knocked 5 points off of that. So that was exciting to see that they were able to work on that chronic absenteeism. And then if you look at their EL proficiency, they went up greatly. They went up by nearly 8 points there, and so they got their full 5 points for EL proficiency. Tanner Elementary School, as you can see, they went up 4 points. This was the highest amount that any elementary school improved, and so it was great to see the improvement in the work that they did. As you can see, there is no classification there with Tanner Elementary. Their academic achievement went up. It was slightly down in reading, but up overall, and a great growth there in math. Also, their academic growth was up overall, slightly down when you look at reading, but look at that academic growth there in math, over 13.5%. So that's very exciting for Tanner Elementary. And if you look at that chronic absenteeism, nearly knocked it in half there, so 8.2 points better than the previous year. So that's great, especially if you kind of look from 4 years ago, 22 down to 8.56 chronic absenteeism rate. So I know that was been a big focus there, and making sure parents are aware of chronic absenteeism and how important it is to be at school. So that was exciting. Also, if you look at their EL proficiency rate there, 71.43, well above the 58%. So they got their 5 points there, and so that was very exciting to celebrate that with them. Okay, the next page is going over the entire district, so looking at our district state report card, and so you can see overall this includes all of our schools, including our virtual school Alabama Connections, and as you can see, we are up 2 points overall. Academic achievement, we were up overall. We were up in reading, but slightly down, a little over 1/10 of a point in math. Academic growth, we were down slightly, but up in reading, down in math. Our graduation rate increased. Our CCRS increased. Remember that big increase from Alabama Connections? That really caused a lot of that increase there. Chronic absenteeism, we were able to lower that for the district. And our EL proficiency actually went down. This is going to be an area of focus for me and my department, as well as the Federal Programs Department, and for our school improvement coordinator that was hired. We are going to continue to work to see what is going to work for our EL students. Currently, I can tell you that our EL teachers have 70 to 80 on their caseload, and when you compare that to how many a special ed teacher would have on their caseload, it is sometimes 3. That's probably at least 3 times as many as you would have on a special ed education teacher's caseload. And so those are going to be some things that we're looking at. I think also making sure our general ed teachers are very aware very well aware of what's on the access test, so we know how maybe we need to be wording things and things to expose them to. We've also looked at possibly doing an access testing team, just so we can go in there and do the testing at a quicker rate, versus it taking several months, and sometimes that means the students are not getting all their services during that time because their teachers are spending a lot of time testing. So we're trying to look at different things. I've looked at report card scores all over to see who's doing a better job than we are for EL, and wanting to talk to those districts and see, so after report cards came out. So we do have plans to work on that. I knew that you would want to know how our brick and mortar schools did, so I took all the scores out of Alabama Connection, so I wanted you to be able to see that, again, we would have been an 87 if we were just looking at our brick and mortar schools. That would have been an increase for academic achievement, would have been up. Our academic growth would still been down that 0.21 of a point. Our graduation rate was up. Our CCRS was down by a point. Our chronic absenteeism was down a little over a 1.5, and our EL proficiency was down 0.35. Our brick and mortar schools maintained an 87. And, we know that we've got to continue to look and work on our EL proficiency. The last page is just the federal report card, so you can kind of see what our federal report card looks like. As I told you earlier, those count EL students if they've been in U.S. schools for 3 years. There's another thing that you would notice about this report card. Our report card, if you pull up the actual scores, we would actually have scored an 80.31. But because district-wide, we did not make 95% of the students in the tested grade levels were not tested, it causes you to lose 2% of your score. And so that made us have a score of 78, or we would have had an 80.31. All of our schools this past year made the 95% except Alabama Connections, and they're putting many things in place. They're having to test kids all over the state, and so they're doing many more sites. So parents aren't having to travel as far. I can tell you they already do numerous things to try to get people to the sites. They give gas cards for parents to come. They've done several things, but I can assure you they have put future plans in place to help get that number to the 95%. It also, when we get to their score, you'll see that their score is also reduced by 2%. And so you can just see, I just thought you would like to see how the federal score compares to their state score. If you're a school that does not have a very big EL population, your score usually stays the same. If you do have a high EL group, sometimes your score will be reflected that because you've got students with only 3 years experience in the English language that their test counts, and research shows that it takes at least 7 years for them to become fluent in the English language. They really say 7 to 10 years, and so just thought y'all would like to see those just to see how those differed from our state scores. Any questions?
Any
Thank
questions?
you, Allison.
Okay. You'd like to call, Miss? Oh, you have a question?
I don't have a question, just a brief comment that I wanted to include for the record. I want to extend my congratulations to the East Langston High School principal reaching that A ranking in the state. And I think this is a great achievement for the faculty and staff. And I cannot thank them all enough for their involvement in reaching this reality and knowing that it benefits the student. Everything they're doing is benefiting the students. And the students are the real winners of this accomplishment. They really are. And I'm grateful to represent such a committed staff and committed faculty in this district. And I'm so thankful for their achievement. I wanted to throw that out there, Mr. Chair.
Good. Ms. Hubbard,
My turn?
you're up.
Okay, I handed y'all, we're looking at September, so we're at the end of the fiscal year. So what have we done? We have successfully got all the state packet was to the State Department on November the 1st. I signed off and DocuSigned, our Shroud signed off, so it was, everything is there. Our team accountant has 15 different districts she has to check. So when she gets ours reviewed and back to me with edits or anything, then they will finalize those. But it was there on time. So we're going to look and we're going to see how we ended the year. If you look at the general fund, you can see that our local revenue was up. We collected 115% of what we thought we were going to collect. And why is that? So here's that. If you look, at the end of the year, I went back and I allocated and confirmed the additional lawsuit sales tax penny. And when I went back and looked at those numbers and calculated it, we got another $3.3 million in local sales tax. And that's a portion of that number. We get to offset some of our general fund expenses with our PSF funds that sits in our debt service fund, so we could move over 3.9 in our expenses over there. Not including our additional local sales tax from that lawsuit penny, our local revenue was up 1.4 million, so I wanted to see why. And over half of that, more than half of that, was our property tax increased. And we weren't expecting a property tax increase this year, and we saw one. We have other state money. Well, let me tell you this. Let me go tell you this, and then we'll come back to that. When I got to the end of the year, 1 month fund balance is $12.3 million. So I moved over. If you look at the other financing uses, you can see the actual column is 20.1. So a portion of that is our debt service payments that have to go over to the debt service fund. But the other $12.9 million was money that we could transfer over to our capital projects fund that we exceeded our 3 months fund balance by.
So that total was 12.9?
If you look on the F3B on the second page, capital projects, I got permission from my team accountant this year to instead of having to move revenue like I've had to do in the past, she let me just show it as a transfer out of the general fund from our local revenue money to the capital projects fund. So there's $12.96 million that we were able to move over to capital projects, in addition to the $6 million in sales tax that we had put there during the year. If you look in the capital projects fund, you'll see that there's $6.377 million in local sources. $6 million of that is the sales tax that we put there. $177,000 of that is interest that we get on our money that sits inside of the capital projects fund. And $200,000 of that was from a local grant that the folks in Elkmont wrote for us to help cover the playground that we put at Elkmont Elementary. So that money came in to help cover the surfacing and the shade at Elkmont. And the top line is the state sources, the 15.49. That is made up of the advancement of technology funds that goes into the capital projects that we budget there. And then the remaining of that was the Lieutenant Governor's grant that Dr. Sherrouse got that we received. So that's where all that money is made up from. So if we look back at our general fund, we still have, it looks as if we have a little over 3 months down there at $41.1 million. And that's because there was $3.24 million of advancement of technology funds that's sitting inside the general fund we have to spend in FY26. And we had about $685,000 in other state funds that we received during the year that carry over to 26. So I have to leave that money there. So that's why you see there's a little more sitting there than 3 months fund balance. And if you look, I put my local revenue analysis in there for you guys. We received $3.2 million in money market interest. In September, we got $336,000 in money market interest. So that's another $3.2 million that helps go to the capital projects fund that we don't, when we move the $12 million over, part of it's from the money market interest that we're able to move that over. So do y'all have any questions? I know that's a lot of information in a short amount of time.
I'm gonna ask a question.
You can ask a
You
question.
said the 15.4 million under actual and capital projects, you said that was budgeted?
Yeah, it's sitting under the budget. And where that came budgeted from, part of it came in the budget amendment because they announced that advancement in the technology money later, and we don't find out about the lieutenant governor's grant until after we do our original budget. So that is actual, what we knew about, what we budgeted in the budget amendment.
I'm gonna let that sit right there, but you know I wanna make about 40 comments on it.
Have you got any
Any
other
other
questions?
questions, comments from the board? Hearing none, we have a consent agenda before us. Do I hear a motion? Mr. Hilliard offers a motion. Do I hear a second? That's you, Brandon? Who said that?
I just said, I got to abstain from item 6A3, please.
Let's get to discussion and abstain there. I need a second.
I'll say it.
Mr. Young seconds. Dr. Herring?
Yeah, I need to abstain from item 6A3.
Any other discussion?
I need to abstain from items 6A, 1 and 2.
Anybody voting on anything on this? Hearing no more discussion, all those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Item 7, discussion approval of personnel actions. Do I hear a motion?
I'll offer.
Mr. Young offers a motion. Do I hear a second? Dr. Herring seconds. Any discussion?
I need to abstain from 7D6.
Mr. Hilliard is abstaining from 7D6. Anyone else? Hearing no more discussion, all those in favor? Motion passes unanimously if Dr. Herring is for it. Did you vote for it?
Yes, sir.
All right. Motion I did not. Item 8, I know, y'all, who said 8 out there? Was it you? All right, I hadn't marked those two, so. Discussion approval, early release of this is why you were fired up about it. Discussion approval, early release of December 2025 paychecks. Do I hear a motion? Mr. Hilliard offers a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Kilgore seconds. Any discussion?
It does have to last until the end of January, just making sure that's clear, yeah.
Hearing none. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Item 9, nomination for election of board chairman for 2025, 2026.
I'll make a motion to nominate Ms. Kilgore.
Ms. Kilgore, do I hear any other nominations?
I have a motion to close.
Motion to close. Second. Mr. Hilliard seconds. All those in favor? Congratulations. Motion passes unanimously. Item 10, nomination for election of board vice chairman for 25, 26.
I'd like to nominate Ms. Fuqua.
Mr. Young nominates Ms. Fuqua. Ms. Fuqua looks angry about it.
Yes.
That's what you get for hesitating.
Any other nominations?
I make a motion to close the nomination.
Motion to close nominations, second by Mr. Hilliard. All those in favor? Congratulations, Ms. Fuqua. Would you like a vote opposed? No. Passed unanimously. Congratulations to the new board officers. Item 11, adjournment. Do I hear a motion?
I'll offer.
Ms. Fuqua offered the motion enthusiastically. Ms. Kilgore seconded. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody.